Have you ever stood before a Rembrandt or a Vermeer painting and lost yourself in its intricate details? Now, what if one day that masterpiece just disappeared from its frame? In 1990, that's exactly what happened at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. 13 pieces of irreplaceable art vanished overnight, and not a single one has been recovered. But who could pull off such an audacious theft, eluding authorities for decades? That's what we're going to cover in this video, and we'll unravel the layers of cunning, disguise, and daring that made the Gardner Museum heist one of the most significant art thefts in history. This is a story you won't want to miss. In 1903, the doors of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum swung open for the first time, unveiling art collector Isabella Stewart Gardner's lifelong passion project. Until her death in 1924, Gardner tirelessly curated the museum, ensuring each piece had a designated spot. She even left a $3.6 million endowment to preserve her vision, insisting in her will that not a single artwork should be moved or sold. However, by the 1980s, the museum was financially drained. With no climate control and overdue building repairs, the museum was in dire straits. Even after the FBI caught wind of a plot to rob the museum in 1982, the much-needed upgrade in security came with significant limitations. Sure, they got 60 infrared motion detectors and a closed-circuit TV system, but only for the exterior. Installing cameras indoors? The trustees deemed it too expensive. Security personnel were increased, but their only way to alert police was a single button at the security desk. No hourly check-ins or fail-safe systems like other museums. Even after a 1988 evaluation revealed the museum's security was lacking, and despite advice for improvements from other security experts in the field, the trustees, tied down by financial constraints and Gardner stipulations, opted not to make significant security upgrades. The board even rejected a plea for higher wages to attract better qualified guards. As a result, everyone within those walls knew the museum's defenses were full of gaping holes. In the quiet aftermath of St. Patrick's Day celebrations, around 12:30 a.m. on March 18, 1990, a couple of partygoers noticed two men dressed as police officers. Stationed in a hatchback near the museum's side entrance, the duo didn't arouse suspicion. They looked like regular cops. Inside the museum, two guards were on duty, 23-year-old Rick Abbott and 25-year-old Randy Hestand. Abbott was a familiar face on the night shift, but for Hestand, it was his first night tour. Per museum protocol, one guard roamed the galleries armed with a flashlight and walkie-talkie, while the other manned the security desk. When it was Abbott's turn to patrol, fire alarms buzzed in multiple rooms, yet he found no fire. Dismissing it as a glitch, he silenced the alarm system. Then he did something puzzling. He momentarily opened and closed the museum's side door without informing Hestand. By 1 a.m., Abbott returned to the security desk, and Heston took over the rounds. Neither had any idea that the night was about to take an extraordinary turn. Just past 1:20 a.m., the hatchback pulled up to the museum's side entrance. The men rang the buzzer, connecting to Abbott via intercom. They claimed to be police officers investigating a disturbance. Through the grainy feed of a closed-circuit TV, Abbott saw the figures dressed convincingly in police uniforms. Unaware of any actual disturbance, but attributing the possible cause to leftover St. Patrick's Day chaos, he buzzed them in at 1:24 a.m. The intruders first stepped into a locked foyer, a buffer zone between the side door and the rest of the museum. Approaching Abbott at his desk, they inquired if anyone else was in the building. Abbott radioed Hestand, summoning him back. Around this moment, Abbott noticed something off. The taller man's mustache looked suspiciously fake. Using this as a pretext for arrest, they ordered Abbott from behind his desk, away from the singular panic button that could alert the police. The moment Abbott complied, the shorter man swiftly handcuffed him against a wall. As Heston entered, the taller man did the same to him. The illusion was shattered. These were no cops. Declaring their intent to rob the museum, the thieves gagged the guards with duct tape and blindfolded them. Without needing any guidance, they led the subdued guard to the basement, chaining them to a steam pipe and a workbench. Rifling through their wallets, the thieves left a chilling message. They knew where the guards lived. If they kept their mouths shut, a reward would come their way in about a year. By approximately 1:35 a.m., less than 15 minutes since their initial entry, the guards were immobilized, and the stage was set for one of the most audacious art thefts in history. At 1:48 a.m., the thieves finally registered on infrared detectors in the Dutch room, 13 minutes after neutralizing the guards, possibly to ensure the police weren't on the way. Sensors designed to keep museum goers at a respectful distance wailed as the criminals approached. They promptly smashed them. They unceremoniously ripped the storm on the Sea of Galilee and a lady and gentleman in black from the walls, their glass frames shattering on the marble floor. A blade made quick work of extracting the canvases from their stretchers. They also detached a large Rembrandt self-portrait, but left it leaning, too cumbersome perhaps, due to its wooden backing. Instead, they settled for a postage stamp-sized Rembrandt etching displayed beneath it. 2 more pieces followed, Landscape with Obelisk and The Concert, along with an ancient Chinese artifact known as a gu. While one thief plundered the Dutch room, the other transitioned to the Short Gallery by 1:51 a.m. There, an aborted attempt to unscrew a Napoleonic flag frame left them with just the eagle finial. 5 Degas sketches joined the growing list of stolen treasures. Astonishingly, Ches Tortoni was also taken from the Blue Room, a room that had shown no movement except for Abbott's earlier patrols. Before their exit, the thieves collected the video evidence from the security director's office, but inexplicably left the hard drive that also stored their movements. It was 2:45 a.m. when the side doors closed behind them, concluding an 81-minute heist that would stun the world. Hours later, the next shift of guards arrived to a conspicuously quiet museum. No one answered calls for entry. The security director eventually used his keys to enter and found the desk empty. A subsequent police search located the bound guards in the basement. In total, 13 works were missing. Initially valued at $200 million in 1990, the stolen art would see its estimated worth escalate as much as $600 million, cementing the Gardner Museum heist as the most valuable art theft in recorded history. The FBI swiftly took over the investigation, anticipating the stolen artwork could easily cross state borders. Yet, this case proved an enigma even for seasoned investigators. Lacking in definitive physical evidence, fingerprints and footprints were discovered, but their ownership, whether they belonged to the thieves or just museum staff, remained a mystery. DNA analysis came into play in later years as forensic technology evolved, but some pieces of crucial evidence have been lost in the annals of FBI files. Eyewitness accounts offered a scant but tangible lead. One of the criminals was described as standing between 5 feet 9 inches and 5 feet 10 inches, in his late 30s and of medium build. His accomplice was reported to be slightly taller, between 6 feet and 6 feet 1 inch, in his early 30s and more robustly built. Despite these fragments of information, the curtain remains drawn on the identities of the perpetrators, leaving the world with an unsolved mystery and a yawning gap where the invaluable art once resided. In a pivotal turn of events, the FBI announced in March 2013 that they had made significant strides in the case. They expressed with a high degree of confidence that they had identified the culprits, members of a criminal syndicate operating out of the Mid-Atlantic and New England regions. The agency asserted that the stolen artworks had been transported to Connecticut and Philadelphia in the years following the heist. They even identified an attempted sale in Philadelphia back in 2002. However, the trail seemed to grow cold after that, prompting the FBI to appeal to the public for help in recovering the missing masterpieces. By 2015, the FBI announced that both suspects in the case were deceased, but stopped short of publicly identifying them. Sources intimate with the investigation pointed to their association with a Dorchester-based gang under the aegis of Boston Mafia boss Frank Salame. The gang's operations were anchored in an auto repair shop run by the criminal Carmelo Merlino. It emerged that one gangster, Louis Royce, had scoped out the museum as far back as 1981, hatching a scheme involving smoke bombs and a chaotic rush into the galleries. When the FBI got wind of this plot in 1982, during an unrelated art theft investigation, they alerted the museum. Royce was imprisoned at the time of the 1990 heist, but it's speculated that his plan may have been executed by an associate, Stephen Rossetti, or passed along to another criminal entity. Despite all these efforts spanning over 3 decades, the case surrounding the stolen artworks from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum remains open. Yet, the museum, in collaboration with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office, has not waned in its determination to solve this enduring mystery and recover the invaluable pieces. The museum has even put forth a substantial incentive to encourage leads that could facilitate the safe return of the stolen artworks. A staggering $10 million reward is on offer for information directly resulting in their retrieval. That's all for today's video, guys. What do you think of today's video? Tell us your views in the comment section. Thank you so very much for taking the time to watch this video. See you in the next video. Until then, best wishes.